Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Glidden here, Tuesday, the 18th day of March, 2014. We're having audio problems with the live feed. We're attempting to stream the radio show live through Google Hangouts and YouTube, but we're having problems patching the audio from the radio station in. So we're going to have to suspend the video stream for today. Bear with us, though. This is all going to come around rather quickly. Just one more hurdle to jump. I appreciate your patience, especially if you are a YouTuber. Once we dial the live video stream for this program in, we're going to go viral. So get ready. If you're a Longevity member, you want to batten down the hatches. You want to get your business cards ready. You want to get your phone system ready. You want to get it done and direct people to this radio station, because we're going to make a big splash here in the rest of 2014. Coming up, we're going to make a big splash here just by telling people the truth. It's all that we do. We tell people the truth. We advise them about alternatives that actually work, which were developed and delivered by physicians. Alternatives to the insanity brought to the table of chronic disease treatment by your MD. Let's go back to Utah and see what's up with Lee. Hey, Lee, thanks for holding on. I appreciate your patience. How can I help?
Well, I live amongst the letter of the law people, and they've been taught that all grains are for the use of man, and I need to know where I can go to find the scientific proof about how these glutens and so forth destroy the body.
Okay, well, that's a great question. I'll tell you a story. You're calling from Utah, right? I was giving a lecture a couple of years ago right around Salt Lake City, and, probably 99% of the people in attendance were Mormon, right?
Right.
And of course, the Mormon culture has been educated to save grain and to store grain, right?
That's right.
To store food, and that it's a really great thing. Well, a scholar from the Church of the Latter-day Saints came up to me after the lecture, and we had a long conversation. I was kind of tired, but this conversation that I had with him, it really kind of perked me up. He did a systemic review of the Mormon scriptures, right? The original stuff, not the copies
right.
of the copies of the copies. And as far as he was concerned, the term wheat, which was used in, the Mormon scriptures, and in the Old Testament, did not mean wheat. That it was a misinterpretation of the word when it was translated from the original, whatever language it was written in. And I guess in the Old Testament it was Hebrew. But he was of the opinion that the word wheat didn't refer to grains in the Old Testament, in the Mormon scripture. He said that it referred to a different type of preparation of wheat. And we had a long conversation about it. So there's problems in the interpretation of, scriptural text that's over 2,000 years old. Well, in the case of the Mormons, it's not 2,000 years old. But, it's entirely possible that there was a transcription problem here, and that the word wheat in the scriptures doesn't actually mean wheat, that it meant something entirely different, number one. Number two, the problem with this whole concept is, even if what I just said is incorrect, and what they really meant was wheat, right? The wheat of 500 years ago, the wheat of 2,000 years ago is not the same thing as Monsanto's monoclonally hybridized wheat. It's not the same molecule whatsoever. It's completely different. And I don't know if you've ever looked at a comparison of, for instance, there's a type of ancient wheat. It's going to come to me in a minute. You can buy it. But when you look at ancient wheat as compared to modern day wheat, I mean, it looks completely different. It's like the difference between a beagle and a German Shepherd. I mean, they're both dogs, but there's a great deal of difference between a Beagle and a German Shepherd. You can see the difference. You don't have to analyze it. You can see it. So the point here is that the wheat that they were referencing in scriptural text is not the same thing as modern-day wheat. It's a different animal completely. It's a different, evolutionary strain. It's a hybridized thing. It's not the same thing at all. Now, what this all boils down to is, if I was the king of the world, man, and I had complete control over where the research money got spent and who researched what and how they did it, of course, objectively and with a scientific methodology, this question of what exactly does wheat do, or barley, rye, or oats, would have been answered 50 years ago. And it would take me about a month to answer this question with the proper scientific research methodology, which of course would cost, $10, $20, $30 million, right? This doesn't happen because that's not the way that the world is set up. So what we lean on in this regard is the old-fashioned practice of medicine, which means you generate a theory which is based upon factual information which you know to be true, and then you extrapolate that theory out along certain lines which make logical sense, and then you test that theory with, people or with animals or with whatever, and that's called the practice of medicine. And this is how medicine used to advance years ago, before the pharmaceutical industry got their hooks into everything. What would happen is, homeopathic doctors would all around the country, or chiropractors all around the country, or MDs all around the country would be practicing medicine in their, in their offices or wherever they were. And they would hear about this therapy or that therapy or this thing or that thing, and they would apply it and they would test it and they would see. And then they'd all get together once a year at a conference, and they'd share their experiences. Hey, did you know that if we use this high blood pressure medication, it also has a positive effect on sleep? Did you know that? Well, we don't have a double-blinded study that proves that, but I'm telling you, I've done it with 100 patients, and it works every time. It was like that, right? But it's not like that anymore, because all of that stuff has gone right out the window. Medical doctors are scared to death of lawsuits, and they're really basically beholden to the pharmaceutical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry does not do unbiased research. They don't. They've cooked the books before the fact. But I'm going off on a tangent. My point here is that what we know is that wheat, barley, rye, and oats have a protein in them, and the protein is collectively referred to as gluten. Gluten is a name for the protein that's in wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Now, all grains have protein, but a protein is like a dog. There are a lot of different types of dogs. Well, there's a lot of different types of protein. The protein, any protein, is a daisy chain of amino acids. It's a bundle of amino acids that have been chained together, and they're linked together through a chemical bond. Now, in some proteins, the bond between the amino acids is very, very weak. In some proteins, the bond between the amino acids is very, very strong. For instance, the protein that's in rice is very, very weak. It's the bond that holds the amino acids together in the rice protein is very, very weak, so it's really easy for your stomach to digest that. It's easy for your stomach to snap that bond and liberate the amino acid, which is what the body intends to do when it digests protein. The only reason that you need to eat protein is to get the amino acids. But you can only absorb the amino acids if the bonds that hold them have been snapped in two. It's kind of like if you had a string of pearls, and you tried to suck it up with one of those vacuum cleaners that has the carpet beater in it, If you had a string of pearls on the floor and you tried to vacuum that up with the carpet cleaner, the string of pearls would jam up the gears and they wouldn't get sucked into the vacuum. But if you snapped the string of pearls and just put the individual pearls on the floor, The carpet cleaner could snap those up no problemo. It's the same thing with the digestive process of the human body. It's the digestive apparatus, your stomach and your small intestine's job to snap those chain of pearls, to snap those proteins in two, liberate the amino acids, and then the free amino acids your body can absorb, and that's a good thing. Now, that's easy to do with rice. I mean, the chemical bonds that hold the rice protein together, they're so weak, if you look at them sternly, they'll snap. A dead person can digest rice, and that's a literal truth. If you pour rice, cooked rice, into the stomach of someone who's dead, the acid that's in the stomach will digest the rice. That's how easy it is to digest rice. But the protein in gluten, the protein in wheat, barley, rye, and oats, it's virtually impossible for the stomach to snap. So we know that it's impossible or really, really difficult for your stomach acid to snap that bond, and therefore we extrapolate that if that amino acid is not properly digested, it's going to gum up the works. It has to gum up the works. Something bad has to happen. It has to. Now, we don't exactly know what, but we have theories as to how that works. And more to the point, what we have direct pragmatic experience of is about 80 to 85% of people who go gluten-free, who just stop eating that stuff, they stop it, feel better. They feel better. There's a direct result. The proof is in the pudding. There's a noticeable, measurable, positive change. They feel a difference. It's noticeable. It's palpable. It's unmistakable. And, that's better than $100 million worth of research, quite frankly. So Dr. Wallach put together an audio CD that explains this a little bit more. That might help you. It's called Serial Killers. Serial Killers. How about that? Cereal Killers. Check it out at drjwallach.com. That's drjwallach.com. You can also direct your friends to a recording of this radio program. I hope that helped, Lee. I appreciate you very much. Stick around, folks. Idaho is up next. Welcome back, everybody. It's an interesting concept to think about, right? Because on the one hand, we must believe that the information delivered through, religious sources is in keeping with reality, that it also rings true. And yet, when what we've been taught about that contradicts with direct personal physical experience, then something has to be wrong. There's a reason for the disconnect. So the only possible interpretation here, the only possible reason for the disconnect, because we know that gluten is bad for you. We know that it is. Not for 100% of people, but for about 85% of the people, and it's modern-day wheat that I'm talking about, barley, rye, and oats. We know that that's a problem. So the only possible conclusion is that the verbiage in the scriptural texts does not mean the same thing as modern-day wheat, that there's a misinterpretation there of that word. And, like the fella said, for want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the message was lost. For want of a message, the battle was lost. And for want of the battle, the war was lost, all because of one horseshoe nail. Well, one word can make all the difference. So I believe, all things being equal, that this has to be the case, that it was the interpretation of the scriptural word that was incorrect. Nobody really thought about it. And now we're suffering because of it. My people are destroyed, right, by lack of knowledge. Let's go to Mary in Idaho and see what's cracking. Hey, Mary, thanks for the call. You are live.
Thanks, Dr. Glidden. I'm calling about a family that has a 6-year-old daughter. She has autism, and she has type 1 diabetes. She was diagnosed with diabetes a little over a year ago, and the autism, I guess, since she was an infant or a toddler. She doesn't have a severe, it's not extremely severe, but still autistic. And they took her off gluten. She's been off gluten for several years. But I just talked to them about a month ago, and I suggested, of course, according to what you would say, that they get the whole family off gluten, and they did that. and we got her on a Healthy Start Pack. And their question is, what else could we do health-wise, nutrition-wise, to help this little girl?
Well, to help deal with diabetes, this is an interesting thing here, right? We are of the opinion, and again, if I was the king of the world, we would be able to prove this up or down. We would be able to see whether or not this is related or not, but we don't have the money, we don't have the research facilities, and the pharmaceutical industry ain't going to go here. But there's evidence to suggest that type 1 diabetes, let's make a distinction for the listening audience. Type 1 diabetes is when your body can no longer make insulin. Your body can't make insulin. And, if you don't have insulin, you're going to die because your body is not able to metabolize sugar if you don't have insulin. Your body needs insulin in order to be able to process sugar. You could have just the perfect amount of sugar in your body and you don't have any insulin, the sugar can't get inside the cell and you're going to die. So with type 1 diabetics, their body has stopped making insulin. Well, why is this? Because the cells in the pancreas have been destroyed. The cells that make insulin have been destroyed. Well, what makes the cells that make insulin become destroyed? We believe it's an allergic reaction to cow's milk. There's evidence to suggest that there's a relationship between cow's milk protein and the destruction of the beta cells in the pancreas. Now, can I prove that? No, but if I had $10 million, I'd research that. You bet I would, because that's a good thing to check out. That would be a good thing to know. Wouldn't that be a good thing to know? You bet that would be a good thing to know. So any child who has recently developed type 1 diabetes, as far as I'm concerned, needs to avoid cow's milk and the cow's milk products like the plague. So no milk, no cheese, no butter, unless it's clarified. They can have clarified butter. Nothing made from cow's milk. Now, they can have goat's milk, they can have sheep's milk, they can have camel's milk, they can have goat's milk cheese, sheep's milk cheese, and clarified butter, no problem. But if it's made from a cow's milk, it's got to go. I wouldn't even look at it for the child that has the diabetic thing, right? Number one. Number two, it's a problem metabolizing. There are two things that happens with sugar. Number one, you need insulin. And number two, you need other minerals that your body uses to help the insulin get the sugar into the cells. So even though she has a problem making insulin, she's going to need that other support as well. So she would get on the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack. And stick around. I've got more to say about this, Mary. Here comes a break. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Special shout-out to the Hutterites who are listening to us up there in the Great White North. We have a big Hutterite following. And I'd also like to know where the Hutterites weigh in on this whole scriptural thing with wheat. Because I got to tell you, it ain't correct. There's a disconnect there. And, you have to respect the culture like the Hutterites. You have to, like the Amish. You have to respect a group of people who are so strong and steadfast in their beliefs that they are willing to just stand up like a rock in the middle of the ocean and go completely against the stream of popular culture. In this regard, the Hutterites and the Amish and Dr. Wallach and I have a lot in common because that's what we do. We stand up against the stream of, conventional nonsense. And we take a stand, a steadfast stand. That's why I unabashedly refer to myself as your steadfast advocate for health, because guess what? I am. So once again, a big shout-out to the Hutterites up there in the Great White North. I appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work. Let's finish this out with Mary in Idaho and see what we can see. Mary, are you still with me?
Yes.
All right, so we need to support and promote healthy blood sugar metabolism, right? And the fact of the matter is that your body needs raw materials to do that. Your body needs raw materials to do everything, man. Needs raw materials for a healthy heart, needs raw materials for healthy kidneys, healthy everything. And the blood sugar metabolization is not an exception to this rule. So what do? In addition to the dietary discretion here, with eliminating the 10 bad foods and staying away from cow's milk, we get on board with blood sugar support. And so the easiest way to do that, the simplest way to do that, is one healthy blood sugar pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month. And, of course, in my world, everybody gets selenium. And in this case, the dosage would be 1 selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month. So that's what I would do. Now, did she say she's also slightly autistic?
Yes, she is.
Okay, so to support and promote healthy brain function, we give extra essential fatty acids. And there's also an interesting product that Youngevity sells. It's called Renew IQ. RENU IQ. It's not a Youngevity product. It's a subsidiary of Youngevity, and I forget the company that makes it, but it's there in the back office. I would try the Renew IQ for 6 months because that's been proven. That's been proven with double-blinded scientific methodology to increase IQ. And it was developed by some guy from Harvard. Not that that means anything anymore. It used to. But in any event, it's not a bad idea to throw into the mix when we're attempting to support and promote healthy brain function. And remember, 75% of the brain and central nervous system is made from cholesterol. So whenever we have anybody who's up against a mental challenge, it would be a prudent idea to eat more cholesterol, right? So the healthy blood sugar pack, 1 extra bottle of EFA plus per month, and the Renew IQ and selenium. That's a really, really good place to start in that regard, plus eliminate the 10 bad foods in the cow's milk. Does that sound like a plan?
It sounds really good. Thank you, Dr. Glidden. I had thought about the Renew IQ, so I'm glad that you confirmed that. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Well, see that? Great minds think alike, Mary. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
You go, girl. Well, it's healing is easy, and this, again, is, I think, one of the hardest things for people to actually understand into their bones, is that the concepts that we speak about here, which have overarching, far-reaching positive impacts on human health, are easy and simple. There's nothing complicated going on here. We have the easiest job in the world. Just give the body its due, get out of the way, and let the body bounce back to the ability that it's able to. What the heck? So, you hang out with us long enough, you will have more functional knowledge about how to support and promote healthy bones, healthy joints, healthy hearts, healthy kidneys, healthy whatever, than your MD. And this is why this is such an important job. And this is why, what we say in Youngevity, at least in Team Glidden's Youngevity, is mission before commission. Because, everybody needs to get paid, everybody needs to make a living, but we're in Youngevity for the mission. What's the mission? To propagate this message to as many people as want to listen. Health recovery through science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition, and that beats a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. John in New Mexico is up next with a question about cherry mints, I think. Hey, John.
Hey,
thanks for the phone call. You're live.
Hey, I have a question about the cherry mints. My wife is not particularly like the BTT, but I decided to get her the cherry mints and the ultimate dailies, and she actually liked the cherry mints. She thought that that's something she could do. She couldn't do the other stuff, the OsteoFX and all that. So my question to you is, because I wanted to get the kids going on it, so I gave them just a little tiny sip, and they wanted the whole bottle, basically.
Right.
And they loved it, but my wife had a question about the fact that there's ginkgo in it. Is that going to be an issue, or would the kids' toddy be better for them?
There's ginkgo in what?
There's ginkgo in the cherry mints.
Wow, I was not aware of that. No, it's not a problem. Because what ginkgo does is, ginkgo is a vasodilator. It increases blood flow.
Right.
And, it's not a bad idea. And the small amount. Now, if we were taking, I'll tell you a story here. This is a kind of a nice little historical anecdote. Every 2 or 3 years, right, in alternative quote-unquote medicine, there's a new fad, right? It's alkalinized water, right? And then it's alpha-lipoic acid, and then it's vitamin B12 shots. Well, whatever, right? There's a new show in town every 3 or 4 years. Well, when I was in medical school, it was ginkgo biloba was all the rage. It was ginkgo this, ginkgo that, ginkgo biloba 24/7. So and there was a laboratory in Germany called Maus Madau, Mausmaddau, I think, Maus Madau. I'm butchering my German here. Sorry, Gottfried, I know you're listening. I'm sorry, I just butchered the German. In any event, there's a company in Germany. The Germans are probably 100 years ahead of the rest of the world in their manufacturing of standardized extracts of herbs. They're really, really good. They have a whole commission. There's a national commission called German Commission E like Edward, which oversees the manufacture of herbal extracts. And it's very intense how they do it. But long story short, when you're giving standardized extracts of an herb like ginkgo biloba in a capsule form, high potency, high dose stuff, right? That's one thing. When you're putting ginkgo biloba into a nutritional supplement as a little extra add-on, that's another thing entirely. And so you don't need to worry about overdosing it at all. There's no harm and no foul there. If anything, it would have a positive effect on the health of the kids. So you don't need to worry about that. But that's a great question.
One question with the Ultimate Daily. They're too big for the kids to swallow, but are they chewable? I mean, I don't even know what they taste like.
You know. Well, put one in your mouth and try to chew it. You'll gag. Okay. They're really vitamin E. But what you can do is, you know those little coffee grinders that they have? You know, you throw your coffee beans in it and press. Yeah. Well, you can get an extra one because if you grind up the Ultimate Dailies in that, the coffee, you'll have a vitamin taste. So get an extra one for the Ultimate Daily capsules, grind them up in that, and take the Ultimate Daily powder and put it in whatever you want. Put it in yogurt, put it in applesauce. Now, here's another workaround that you may not be aware of, and this works for people who don't like the taste of the Beyond Tangy. Well, first of all, John, was it the original red Beyond Tangy, or is it the 2.0 that she didn't like?
She didn't like either one. However, when we took one scoop of the regular and one scoop of the 2.0, she said, I can kind of tolerate it, but it's still not my favorite.
I get it.
You have to blend up some pineapple with it or something.
Yeah, I get it. And, it's a real thing. You like the taste of something or you don't, and that's, we have to, walk that walk. So one thing that you may want to do as a little experiment is put either of the Beyond Tangies or mix them up together in yogurt. Put the crystals in yogurt and mix it up. Don't dissolve it in water. Just sprinkle the crystals. Take your dose, a scoop or whatever, and put it right on some yogurt. Mix it in and eat it. It's delicious.
Just plain yogurt?
Just plain yogurt. Now, of course, we're of the full fat is good for you camp. So there's only a couple of companies that make full fat yogurt. One is Stonyfield Farms and the other is Brown Cow. Right. But I don't really care. I'd rather have her just do this with, yogurt that's completely fat-free as long as she gets the Beyond Tangy in her body, because there's no nutritional supplement on the face of the planet that comes close to that right now. Okay. So by hook or by crook, if you can find a workaround for that. Now, another option, I don't know if this is appropriate but a popsicle. You can make a popsicle out of it. And that lends a different taste to it. I prefer, when I make mine up, I put it in these little sport bottles, and I'll mix the dose up. I'll put some plant minerals or some cherry mints or whatever else in there, and I'll put the bottle in the freezer. And then a couple of hours later, I take it out, and it's like half, frozen and half liquid. It's slushy, and that's how I like it. If it's, I can just slam that stuff down, no problem. But if it's warm, room temperature, I have a harder time with it. Okay. So maybe, I don't know, make a popsicle, throw it in some yogurt, see if it works. But if you can, and the workaround for the Ultimate Dailies is grind them up, or go to an herb store or Williams and Sonoma and get a mortar and pestle an old-fashioned mortar and pestle, and pound it and grind it, and then mix the daily powder with food or drink and see what you can come up with.
Perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, John. Appreciate your call. I appreciate you very much. Cindy from Boston, my old stomping ground is next, right up there, maybe up there in Harvard Yard. Hello there, Cindy.
Hey, how are you today?
Well, I want you to go down to Cumbies, go down the road till it gets wicked wide, and then bang a left.
I can park the car in the yard?
Sure, why not? Yeah, pick me up a grinder while you're at it. I need a grinder.
You bet. Oh, Dr. Glidden, I have a couple of questions. I'm new at this, and you gave me a formula that I ordered, and I just want to make sure that I heard you right. I have a thyroid hypo that actually about an hour from now when my MD calls, I'm going to fire her. So I just thought I'd let you know that because...
I'd like to hear that phone call.
Yeah, she's the one who just, they dropped the ball on me a year ago. I was mentioning this to you before. It was on my, on a report that I got that I was bringing to another neck, specialist to my chiropractor. And on that was I had a calcification 7 millimeters and they never told me about it. And it was a year ago.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that. Hey, Cindy, I got a hard break coming up. Hang on. I'll pick you up right after it, and we'll sort this out. Stick around, folks. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is Fire Your MD Now. Welcome back, everybody. Going up to Boston. Maybe get some beans. Maybe go to Legal Seafood. Get some clams. No more fried clams, though. No more fried clams, Cindy.
Oh, yeah, well, you already killed me with the olive oil. And my family owns a grove out in Italy, and my mom goes there and brings home the extra virgin, the true stuff, straight from their grove in a big tin container. So I was going to ask you about that, too.
Well, all right, I'll tell you about that. Here's the deal. So the problem that we have with oil in a bottle is because it oxidizes. And it oxidizes because in the top of the bottle there's air. So if they can extract the oil from the olive into a vacuum chamber and then put that into a vacuum-sealed bottle, not a glass bottle, but like, one of those, purple glass bottles or just an opaque bottle or a jar or something that don't let the light in and so there's no light and no air in it, then you can have that olive oil and it's not going to be bad for you. And if you've ever had a bottle of wine for dinner and you can't finish the whole thing, instead of throwing it out or leaving it overnight for tomorrow, it's going to turn to vinegar because it oxidizes in relationship to the air. So they have these little rubber corks that you put in it and you suck the air out. And then, the wine is great the next night. You don't waste it. Well, if they could come up with a contraption like that for olive oil, where you could suck the air out of the bottle as soon as you use it, and, you keep it in the refrigerator in a dark bottle, then you can use that olive oil, no problem. But they don't do that. And so the problem is, the best way to use olive oil would be to have an olive tree in your backyard. Pick the olives off of the tree, bring them into the kitchen, put them in a press, squeeze the oil out of the olive and use it immediately. And whatever you don't use, you throw away. Then you could use that, no problem. But that's a royal pain in the you-know-what.
Oh, yeah.
It's a million times easier just to use butter or, lard. What the heck?
I know. Well, I'm learning to make tomato sauce with butter, so this is interesting anyway.
Yeah. Right,
I'm about to get a phone call from my MD, and I went reluctantly today to get an ultrasound because when I brought it to their attention a year ago that they missed this, and they said, well, you need to get that ultrasound and to see where that's at now, which I went today, and she had her secretary call me to say, just to let you know, it hasn't grown any. and she'll be calling you later. So about any time she's going to call me, and I'm just really not happy with any of this. But my question is, with the calcified thyroid, what does that mean? I'm not really going to receive an evil report from them and then do their biopsy thing, and then she'll want me to have it out. I'm not going that route. So
yeah, well, I wouldn't either. Whenever you get calcium deposition in the body, and I mean deposition, which is different than a bone spur. A lot of people think that a bone spur is a calcium deposition. It's not. But when you do get calcium depositions in the body, a lot of times people will get a calcium buildup on the valves of their heart or inside arteries, right? And that's called hardening of the arteries. And that's different than an atherosclerotic waxy plaque that builds up in the artery. There's two different ways an artery can get clogged. One is with a waxy plaque, and the other is with a calcium. So that's a calcium deposition. You've got a calcification here of a little part of the thyroid gland. Most of the time when that's present, it's because you have a deficiency in magnesium. That calcium is laid down inappropriately in the body when there's not enough magnesium. And it would take me about 30 minutes with a bunch of flow charts to be able to explain why that happens or how that happens. But just trust me, it's a magnesium deficiency. So anybody that has a calcium deposition anywhere in the body would benefit from extra magnesium in their body. And the easiest way to do that is with the Longevity subsidiary company called SuperLife. They make a liquid calcium called Cal Toddy, C-A-L like calcium, Cal Toddy. That has twice as much magnesium in it as the Beyond Osteo FX. So if I were you, given this history, I would switch out my Beyond Osteo FX to the Cal Toddy. You'll get more magnesium into your body, and moving forward, ostensibly, this could be of great help to you in preventing future calcifications. We're out of time, Cindy. Regretfully, I appreciate your trust and your phone call. Keep up the good work in my old stomping ground. Live chat tonight for insiders and their guests exclusively, 8 p.m. Central Time. I'm Dr. Glidden. Live long and prosper.